Welcome back to Orange Hat Reviews, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. I am doing Mystery Review episode 40. Wow, done 40 of them almost for a whole year. Yeah, episode 40. Now, the hints that I gave out were Daikini and Peck. And like an hour ago, I gave out a final hint, which was, I believe, you're all pigs. Yeah, you're all, or the quote from the movie, you're all pigs. Now, I have not been able to find my orange hat anywhere, so I am using one of my orange, or little orange ones. So for those of you who have most likely not seen my tweets because of me being shadow banned on Twitter, I'm honestly thinking about leaving Twitter because of my being shadow banned. I'm probably going to make mines my more main area. And Dan Blackroyd, good to see you. And yes, you have guessed it, it is indeed Willow. So yes, I am doing a review for Willow. And if you guys stay tuned for tomorrow morning at, I believe, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard, I will be doing a guest review with Riot Kitty. And then that evening at 8 p.m., instead of Mara going live on her channel for Wednesday Cringe, she will be going live with me at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard for a guest review for Hot Fuzz tomorrow night. And hello, Riot Kitty. Hello, Metalong. Willow. Speak of the devil and she will appear. Yeah, exactly. So hope you're all doing well. Let's get a light on here. We had a huge snowstorm overnight, and let's just say that we're going to have a lot of yard cleanup because it dropped a lot of branches and shit. But anyway, not much is up, just doing a review. And Willow is a 1988 movie, a movie directed by Ron Howard, produced by George Lucas. And it was released that showed that heroes are not always big, but can also be small. A magical film of romance, wonder, magic, and tragedy. A film that made the name Warwick Davis bigger than life, even though he had been in 5 other productions, most notably Wicket from the Ewok movies, as well as Return of the Jedi. Warwick Davis was 11 years old during the time or filming of Return of the Jedi in 1981. His birthday is actually February 3rd, 1970, which makes him just under 15 years older than me, which is actually pretty cool. So yes, if you guys can, please share the video out. And definitely share the stream. Wow, Willow, cool movie. Yes, it is. Hey, Andrew, good to see you. So yes, Willow. This movie is one of my all-time favorites from childhood. And even now today, it still holds up, even with the dated special effects. This movie is cast, or Warwick Davis was cast along fellow little persons such as Billy Barty, David Steinberg, Kenny Baker, who also played R2-D2 in the original trilogy. Other cast members include Val Kilmer, Joanne Whalley, Jean Marsh, and Patricia Hayes. This movie did many great practical effects as well as digital. Back when Industrial Light and Magic were making a name for themselves after Star Wars, James Horner composed the score for Willow, which gave an excitement and wonder and extra added layer. Now, folks, James Horner's score for this movie was Star Wars level. I mean, he did really good with it. He also did the score for the movie Krull, which was kind of a Star Wars-esque film, but also grounded in a more medieval setting as well. It was a blend of medieval and sci-fi. And honestly, I thought it was a great movie as well, with dated special effects, sure. And honestly, this movie is also no exception. So there is an opening narration to this movie, and it begins after I check something really quickly. Alrighty, that's not it. Also, I got to share the stream on Facebook in case anybody on Facebook wants to watch. And good. So, yes, the opening narration after this. There we go. So, it is a time of dread. Seers have foretold the birth of a child who will bring about the downfall of the powerful queen Bavmorda, played by Jean Marsh. Seizing all pregnant women in the realm, the evil queen vows to destroy the child when it is born. And then the movie moves into Joanne Whalley, Sorsha, witnessing the birth of the prophesized child, or the prophesied child. And after leaving to tell or to warn her mother, bah. What do you mean, bah? This movie is actually a very good one if you take the time to watch it, right? So she goes to tell her mother, the queen, Bavmorda, of the birth of the kid or the child who will end up being her destruction, where the mother of the child is pleading with the midwife, or the woman who helped birth the child, for those of you who don't know what a midwife is. Bavmorda, the queen name. It's Bavmorda, Bavmorda. Okay, now I get what you were trying to do. But yeah, Bavmorda. And so as the woman is leaving, after she decides to help the mother, Bavmorda is coming in to take the child, but the woman is hiding the bundle or clutching the bundle as if it is the child. So the midwife makes it out of the queen's castle and her borders. And she manages to make it a few months traveling, keeping the child safe. And it suggests that some time has passed where the baby has a nice full head of red hair. Now, that is actually a wig. The babies who were used to play the child were Kate and Ruth Greenfield. It was actually twins. And we all know that wigs have a special adhesive. Well, you can't use that adhesive on babies. So they used syrup for the wigs, adhesive for the baby. And that's something interesting. Old school. Because obviously the adhesive would have torn the baby's skin if they had tried to use the normal wig adhesive. So as the midwife moves on through the story, or through the wild, or through the wilderness, and through different areas, you see the score, or the title Willow comes up. It's actually a very nice scroll, very beautiful blue. And the score is done really well in this movie. You truly feel emotion when you hear this score, which is not actually very common nowadays. I mean, sure, somebody comes along and does a very epic score if it is a big name like John Williams or James Horner, or who did Lord of the Rings? The guy that did Lord of the Rings and the guys who did the first phase of the MCU. So yeah, there's very few who can actually invoke a really good score. And you hear this score actually placed in other movie trailers, kind of like Dragonheart, the one that I discussed last week, where its score, done by Randy Edelman, was used in other trailers. Believe it or not, the Willow trailer or the Willow score was actually used in the trailer for one of the first Jurassic Park the first Jurassic Park movie, one of its trailers. Yes, Howard Shore did the Lord of the Rings. Thank you for that, Dan Blackroyd. So yes, she manages to elude Bavmorda's forces until she hears the hounds coming for her. Now, these devil dogs were well-trained Rottweilers, and they were put into fursuits with rubber masks, which honestly they did, or it really worked to sell the monstrous look that these things had. I mean, you don't really see their mouths move, but when these dogs are barking or moving their head to bark and whatnot, you actually, and Alan Silvestri, yes, you really do get the sense that these things are really looking like that and really terrifying. They have rat-like tails instead of dog tails, because Rottweilers have no tails. And they truly do sell the ferociousness because, well, these are Rottweilers, but they're very well trained. And while the midwife does manage to get the child to safety, at this point, the baby's name is not yet disclosed, but her name in the film is Alora Dannon. And in order to save the baby, because she couldn't outrun the devil dogs, as they call them, she loosens up a piece of, or a patch of earth or ground and puts the baby on it, sends it down the river. And then you also see the midwife get tackled by the dogs, and Alora looks on kind of in horror because she is a baby and sees that the midwife was killed. And then you see some very beautiful establishing shots of the area of around the river. And then we get introduced to the children that find her by the riverside. Now, Mims and Rannon are the two small people. They were actually dwarves themselves, or if you really want to use the other term, midget. I'd rather use foreshortened person or short person or little person. These two kids were played by Dawn Downing, who played the girl Mims, and Mark Vanderbrake, who played Rannon. And they are the children of Willow Ufgood, who was played by Warwick Davis. Now, I love how when they call Willow down to the river, he's apprehensive at first. He's like, it's a Daikini baby. What's a Daikini? They're giants who live far away. Hey, Jacob Ironside, good to see you. And I do love how they have different names. It's for the different races. Daikinis are the big people, like you, me, and whatnot. Nelwyns are the little people, the dwarves, or dwarven folk. And they even have brownies, which are very little people. And oh my God, when you get to that, or when we get to that point in the review, oh dear Lord, the brownies are played by some great actors, Kevin Pollak being among them. Each race are not really well known to each other. They are they keep apart. And I really do like how the Nelwyn village is very well built. George Lucas and his production did a very good job with this movie. And Ron Howard actually did a very good job directing the movie. And from what I could glean from the audio commentary a couple times that I watched it with Warwick Davis, who gives a commentary for the film. Have to go, bud. It's late here, but have a good stream. Thank you very much, Andrew. Thank you for stopping in. I'm watching this again tomorrow for sure. Thank you, sir. And hello, Jacob. Good to see you. And yes, Kevin Pollak is great. He really is. So yes, when Ron Howard or when George Lucas, he wanted to actually tell the story in the 70s, but he wanted to do his Star Wars epic, his space opera first, which he did. And then this allowed Willow or Warwick Davis to actually kind of grow. And he talked to Warwick on the set of Return of the Jedi that he was planning the story of Willow and whatnot, but it's going to be a few years down the road. So he asked him if he would like to be a part of it. And the kid said, absolutely. Well, at this point, Warwick was only 11. And then in 1980, this movie was released in 88. So it was filmed most likely in 86 and 87. Warwick was only 16, 17 years old at the time. So yeah, Warwick was actually pretty young when he was doing this movie. Listening to your explanation, Willow kind of feels inspired by Greek mythology. Child will be born. That will lead to the downfall of powerful figure. Someone steals said child away. Yeah, it really does. It is a story that is timeless, yet also well known in time. This trope has been used several times. There are many movies and many shows where a kid is born who will bring about great change and whatnot. So yes, it is a trope that is as old as time itself. Like a female Moses. In a sense, yes. And they actually did have novels that were the sequels to the story where Elora Danan actually grows up and she slays dragons. So yeah, that's actually pretty cool. So moving on, Willow is apprehensive. He doesn't want anything to do with the kid. He's like, we'll push it downstream, forget we ever saw it. But then he hears the prefect calling him Burglecut. I love the names that they had in this movie. Willow Ufgood. And Burglecut, played by the short actor Mark Northover. And Kaya is played by Julie Peters. Kaya is Willow's wife, and she's trying to tell Burglecut that Willow didn't steal anything because he's going to accuse him of stealing seeds and whatnot. And Burglecut he's bald. The way that he looks, the way that he carries himself in the film, you could tell he's just an asshole. He really is. So he accuses Willow of stealing seeds because he's the seed master around the village. He's like, I'm the one who sells the seeds around here, so tell me where you got them. Maybe I use magic. You're no sorcerer. You're a clown. Well, my family has been picking them in the woods. So, yeah. And you find out that Burglecut is also after Willow's land because Willow hasn't been able to get his crop sown, and he hasn't been able to bring it in. And the rainy season is coming, so Willow does need to get it done. So while Burglecut and yes, he's bald, kind of like me, but a lot more bald. So Kaya goes down to see her kids down by the river because she's like, Willow, you didn't leave them down by the river. And then she finds the baby. After Burglecut walks off, Willow goes down and he's like, under no circumstances is anybody to fall in love with that baby. And Kaya just takes her off. He's like, I will not be ignored. So you get the idea that he just doesn't want any trouble right now because he owes a lot of debts. He owes a debt to Burglecut. And if he can't make good on it, Burglekutt's going to try taking his land, So in their home, and you see that these are beautifully made homes. There are also homes that are made for little people. And she sees the mark on, or while Kaya is cleaning the baby, she sees the mark. She's like, Willow, do you think we should take this baby to the village council? No, they're going to say it's an omen. They're going to say, or there's going to be a drought, or there's going to be something going wrong. And then they're going to say, Willow Offgood brought that baby here. It's his fault. Let's get him. And he's also stressed because tomorrow is supposedly his big day, which there is a festival, and she explains the High Aldwin hasn't chosen an apprentice in years. So earlier you hear that maybe I used magic. Well, he's trying to be a sorcerer. And so you get that the High Aldwin is a sorcerer, most likely. And when they go to the, or tomorrow, or the next day to the festival, you get one of the best festive soundtracks that you'll ever hear. I'm actually going to play a little bit of it because it is immediately recognizable. Please do not freaking strike my channel, Disney, because I know that you assholes got a hold of the rights to this. I'm only going to play a little bit of it. So, let's see here. Willow. Festival music. Yeah. Oh, it's only an hour 49 or 51. And of course, we get the stupid ass ad. But yeah. I mean, it's very festive. I mean, hell, even I'm shaking my head to it. It's more of a repetitive tune, but it really is catchy. And it's completely different than the rest of the soundtrack, because the score is just more kind of almost Star Warsy, but also more hope-filled. I mean, each theme and score piece in this film really does fit the setting of where it is. With the Nelwyn Village, you have that score. They did really good music for this film. Yes, Metalong, they absolutely did. And it sets the mood right, indeed. It truly, rarely do you have scores that perfectly fit the setting of the scene. This movie did it. James Horner, John Williams, so many others, Howard Shore, they know how to make a scene or a film or a score fit the scene. Sorry. But yes. And you see Willow performing his magic, or doing some parlor tricks, so to speak. And how you doing, Kamen Rider? Good to see you. And he's like, if you're easily shocked, please turn away. And he puts a log with a hole in the middle of the log, and he takes a stick with a flaming end, puts it through, and runs it through, pulls out. There's no damage to his arm. And then he's like, I'm going to make this, or his next trick, he's going to make this entire pig disappear. And he makes the pig disappear, but then it starts running around the area underneath him. And you see that Burglekutt's in the crowd looking on. He's actually visibly impressed. And then when the pig kind of ruins the trick for Willow, he starts laughing. He's like, that's fair enough. And then you see the High Aldwin come in. And you see three hopefuls. Well, three hopefuls come in, and Burglekutt's like, Willow Offgood's a hopeful? That's hilarious. And he's he's just causing a bunch of problems. And you honestly, and Billy Barty, who plays the High Aldwin in this village and whatnot. Hey, Raging Rhino, good to see you. And yeah, man, how you doing? Billy Barty is one of the best freaking short people actors in cinema. Unfortunately, he has passed on, but oh my god, he did wonderful roles when he was in this or in the stuff. I'm about to go to bed. Just wanted to say hi and smash the like. Thank you so much. And yes, smash the like, folks. It does help the channel more than you know. What movie am I reviewing? I am reviewing Willow, 1988. Warwick Davis, Val Kilmer, Joanne Whalley, and Patricia Hayes are the main characters. So yes, he then tests his three hopefuls. The power to control the universe lies within which finger, and he has all of them pick a finger. And then when he gets to Willow, he's got these two fingers already down, and Willow is apprehensive at first, and then he chooses the ring finger, and then he closes his fist, and then he's like, "No apprentice this year." And you later will learn that Willow actually had the middle one. Yeah, somebody chose the middle one, but they didn't get it. It's a different time where you're at, Raging Rhino. Yeah, it's late evening for that, or it's getting into the late evening for anybody in Australia. So yes, you have, or this is then where one of the devil dogs that chased down the midwife shows up and attacks the village. And you see all the warriors of the village coming out. Now, a lot of people nowadays would see this as comical, where you see the smaller people running. Yes, they have their limitations because they're small, but honestly, I never laughed at any of the foreshortened people's limitations, because honestly, I just grew up seeing them as just another person, just different. That's one of the wonderful things about me. I was raised right. I didn't ever dwell on a person's differences. And when you see them running, when I first saw this movie, I saw it at my house where my dad got it on tape. Yeah, it's about 12, or it's about to be 12 a.m. Oh, so you are 2 or 14 hours ahead of me. Nice. So yeah, and Lethal is like 14 and a half hours ahead of me, I believe. So yes, when I was watching the film for the first time when I was young, or I saw it in 1990, even though it's an 88 film, my dad had just managed to get it on tape, or tape it off of TV. And you see these guys running, and there was somebody over that was laughing about it, and he's like, "Look at the little midgets run, look at the little midgets run." My dad actually is like, "Shut your mouth. Watch the movie. That's kind of rude." But I also realized that my dad wasn't saying that it was rude to interrupt the movie. It was rude to kind of just talk that way about somebody who's a little different, you know? So, yeah, we then see them take down the dog, or the devil dog, and this devil dog rips apart a baby carriage, or a wooden baby carriage that's like I forget what they're called, but it's something that you actually do put a baby in, that you rock it. I think it's a rocker, or rocker. I'll just call it a rocker. There. So after they kill it, Vankar, the head of the best warrior of the village, he's like, "It was after somebody's baby." So Willow realizes his kids, or this thing was after a baby, and well, what would it want with an Elwyn child, you know? So he runs right back to his home, terrified that something has happened to his wife and the baby there. It's like, we can't keep the baby. We'll have to take it to the village council. So we then get to the village council, where everybody in the village is there, and you see freaking Burglecut stirring up frenzy. He's like, one beast we can kill, but there may be more, and you could be sure that they won't stop until they find what they're looking for. Yeah, he speaks it in rhyme. And it's like, we should find out who's responsible and throw him in the pit. And everybody starts chanting, yeah, in the pit, in the pit, in the pit. And while when Willow is there with the baby and his family, they slowly start turning around to get the hell out of there. And the High Alduin stops him. He's like, Willow Elfgood, come forth. And so Willow now has to explain what he's doing there. And he explains it. We found that this baby outside the village. And the High Alduin manages to divine, because he is magic. He knows and he can intuit magic, that this baby is somehow special. And it must be taken away from the village. Also because it is dangerous. So he asks him, do you have any love for this child? And Willow admits that he does. So he consults the bones, reading some of the items. Raging Red, I'll keep Jesus Christ, Black Red. So he tells him, the bones tell me nothing. He whispers this to Willow, and he's like, what we need is a group to take the baby away to the Daikini crossroads. The bones say, yeet the baby. And Vonkar, the head warrior of the village, he volunteers to be part of the expedition, and Burglecut's like, not Vonkar, he's the strongest guy in the village. Vonkar, step back. And so the High Alduin at this point has just had enough of Burglecut's nonsense. He's like, what this expedition needs is a leader. And the bones say it is you, Burglecut. And then he's like, Vonkar! He calls the guy back. Don't mind me, I'm still waking up, and I'm sarcastic kitty when I'm groggy. Hey, that's awesome. Your sarcasm is always a joy for the channel, Riot. And I also got the talking points for Riot and I's guest review for tomorrow morning. We're going to be reviewing Logan and discussing it and whatnot. So yes, folks, tune in tomorrow at 10 a.m. for the Logan discussion with Riot, and 8 p.m. tomorrow night for the guest review for Hot Fuzz with Mara Jade, or Jade Shadow's YouTube channel. So they are saying they're getting set up for the expedition to begin, and the High Alduin asks Willow, he's like, what's your problem, son? He's like, how do you mean, sir? When you were when you were up on stage and choosing to choose a finger, which finger did you choose? He's like, yeah, it was stupid. Yes, Logan the Marvel movie, Kamen Rider. And he tells him, he's like, just answer. What was it? I picked my own finger. Well, that was the right choice. You lack faith in yourself, but you also have the potential to be a great sorcerer. Now, the High Alduin did say that he couldn't take him as an apprentice, but he also is telling him he does have the potential to be a great sorcerer. And Willow, this does give him a bit of a pep in his step. He knows that this is high praise coming from the High Alduin. And then he says his goodbye, or the High Alduin gives him some acorns. He's like, these will help you. Acorns? They're magic. Anything you throw at them will turn to stone. Now, these do come to play later in the film. And then he says his goodbyes to Kaya, which she gives him one of her braided ponytails. And he realizes she cut her hair. Now, when these two are saying goodbye to each other, you do kind of feel that these two have great chemistry with each other. And Julie Peters, who plays Kaya, does a wonderful job at expressing how worried she is for her husband going off in the wilderness to do this. Now I'm in the mood for some brownies. Oh, good to see you, NB. Good to see you, buddy. Nobody geeks, buddy. Good to see you. So they go to take it through or out, and you hear the score kick up again, and you see they shot in so many places. They shot in or they shot in a couple states in the United States, and they shot in New Zealand. They shot in New Zealand before Lord of the Rings was shot in New Zealand. And a couple other countries too. I mean, the snowy ones was up in the or the snowy scenes, I believe, were, I can't remember where they were shot, but this movie had an international filming schedule, and it really was done well. When they are shooting the scenes where they're walking over a huge log underneath a huge chasm in the woods, you see so many wide shots and how these people are walking through. It is just so great. And there's a small scene where the baby is sick, and Burglekutt's like, "Oh, she's not sick. Let me see, or give her to me." And this baby just blasts right up in his face, and he's like, "Take her." And it is just hilariously humiliating for Burglekutt as such stuff just happens to him on this journey, and they have to hide because they hear the dogs again. They hide, and during the time while they do cut to Bavmorda's castle, where she's like, "How is it with my resources in my army that nobody can find one helpless little child?" And you get introduced to the character General Kale. Now, Kale, who I affectionately called Skullface back in the day, because this dude had one hell of. I'm actually going to try pulling up a picture of him. General Kale for Willow. And let me just share the screen. And go to images. Yes, this dude looked pretty freaking menacing, man. So yeah, let me share this. I mean, this is just brilliant work that they did. Share screen. Slide share. Chrome. Kale. Don't need to worry about audio. But yeah. I mean, just look at that, dude. I think this is him with his mask up. And this is actually a figure of him. Good to know that they actually made figures of these characters. But yes, this dude was seriously menacing in the film. So yes, he comes in and he's like, yes, that was one badass mask. Practical effects just cannot beat them. Especially the baby vomit. I believe that was real vomit, but I could be wrong. Don't quote me. So yes, that was General Kale. And let me also pull up the devil dogs from Willow to give you an idea of what these suckers looked like. Devil dog Willow. Let me reshare. Let me reshare the thing. And there we are. Yes, these are Rottweilers. that were used for the film, and they were put in these fursuits and masks. I mean, these things are just nasty looking to give you, or so yeah. Only 3 freaking photos or 4 freaking photos of these things in a image search. That's weird. So, yep. I just got back, had a customer talking a bit, but I did like the look of the general, and him being a bit an older gentleman added to his overall look. Yes, Pat Roach was the actor who played General Kale, and he comes back from a mission to destroy the fortress of Galadorn. Now, the 3 main kingdoms in this movie are Tir Asleen, Galadorn, and Nockmaar. Bavmorda rules over Nockmaar, and Galadorn was one of the free kingdoms in the land, as well as Tir Asleen, which comes to play later on in the film. You never do see the kingdom of Galadorn or the fortress there either. It's only mentioned as a past event. And so he's now tasked with, or to help Sorsha find the child. Because of his more ruthless tactics, he can most likely do it or find it. I forgot to mention, I saw Morbius yesterday, and it was a hint, most likely Matt. Okay. So, yeah. Now, back when Hollywood was not hating on gingers. Exactly. There's a lot of redheads in this film. And honestly, they really do need to bring him back and stop with the identity politics of today. So, as Sorsha and General Kale are leaving, one of the seers tells Bavmorda that he's read the signs and that he fears that one day her daughter will betray her. And she says, I trust her loyalty more than I trust yours. She's very sure of herself, Bavmorda, and you see that in her face when she is walking away from out of this scene. And let me just take care of this. So, the Daikini crossroads, which are where they were tasked to take the baby, and the introduction to Mad Mardigan. Played by Val Kilmer in such a great way. I mean, to think that they actually wanted John Cusack to play Mad Mardigan, or Cusack actually wanted to play Mad Mardigan, I just cannot see that. I can only see Val Kilmer playing this character. And when he gets there as one of the... let me actually pull up Mad Mardigan. Mardigan Willow. Let's see here. Did I have a picture of him in the cage? Mad Mardigan in cage. There we go. This is hilarious. From Top Gun to In a Cage. Yes, Dan Blackroyd. This movie did actually have Mad Mardigan meet his future wife, Joan Wally. They actually married after this movie and had 2 kids, but they ended up getting divorced in 1995, I believe it was. But yes, Val Kilmer and Joanne Wally, who plays Sorsha in this film, they actually fell in love during the making of this film, which is crazy because their characters fall in love in the film. But yes, this is Mad Mardigan in the cage where they found him, and he's like, "Get me some water, Peck. And I just love this. Hey, Floral from Under a Rock. Good to see you. And he's like, give me some water, you measly little Pecks. Don't call me a Peck. Oh, I'm sorry. Peck. Peck. Peck, 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 peck. And after they find, or the group realizes he's a Daikini, he's like, he's Daikini. We're in luck. We can't get rid of him. Somebody put him in there for a reason. And Migosh, who is Willow's friend, played by, is it David Steinberg? Yes, David Steinberg. Let me actually pull him up too, because he's he's Willow's best friend in the village. So, yep, you got Migosh here. He's also one of the voices of reason, but he's also kind of a simple fellow or a simple character in the movie as well. But even how short these characters are, or their time in the film, they really do leave a lasting impression. Migosh is Willow's best friend. He'll go do anything with him, you know? You should not be messing with potions while having brownies around. Yeah. Well, life imitates art, and art imitates life. Indeed. They honestly do not get a lot of Hey, Pops, good to see you. I didn't see your comment for a second. It seems the chat jumped on me quite a bit. So, yeah. And they end up parting ways where Migosh and Willow stay behind. The rest of them decide to leave. And before Burglecut has them all leave, he tells Willow, while you're out here, your crop's not being sowed. I'll have your land. And he ends up leaving with them, and they start running out of food after a couple days. And Mad Mardigan's just trying to get him to give him water, and offers to take care of the baby. And he's like, hey, can I have some of that water? And you see Willow sip noisily with it. And he's like, I don't even know why I tried. And he's like, just wanted a little bit of water. He literally starts playing the begging card. And Willow tries to Willow falls, or he's like, here, thanks, friend. And then they hear the first horseman coming, or the second horseman, because the first horseman wakes him up after one of the days that they fell asleep at the crossroads. And then they see an army marching toward them. And all the big people, the Daikinis, they call the Nelwyns Pecks, because, well, they're little Pecks, you know? And none of them are willing to look after the baby because, well, this is an army that's marching on. And they go to one of the knights that is staying there on horseback to oversee the movement of the convoy. Well, this was the character of Eric, which I can pull up here. And who was it that played him? Eric Thobear. Or Thobear. Thobear. So, yeah, that is Eric. And it's like, we're going into battle, little ones. Find a woman to take care of her. And you hear Mad Mardigan. He's like, they thought you were a woman, Eric. There we go. Who was it that played Eric? Gavin O'Herlihy. Yeah. He was the one who played Eric. And here he is. There. You should not, yeah. And he's like, what's going on? Well, Bavmorda took down the kingdom of Galadorn. So we're going to basically bring it to her now. And he's like, let me out of this cage. Or let me out of this cage, Eric. I'll win this war for you. And Eric tells him, he's like, Mav Mardigan, I still serve Galadorn. You serve no one. You sit in your cage and rock. Or rot, rather. Rock. I'm just not into it, or just not in it right now, folks. And so he yells out at Eric, and the next day when they start running out of food, you see, or Val takes another, or Mad Mardigan takes another tact. He's like, nobody's going to take care of that baby. You want to know why? Because nobody cares. But I do. I'll raise her like she was my own. If I had somebody, a daughter perhaps, I might have a reason to go on living. And he looks off, and so they decide to let him down, or let him out. Now, unbeknownst to everybody in the film, he does start walking with a limp afterward, not very, or noticeable in some scenes, but not in others. Because when he gets out of this cage, he falls down to his knees, and the bottom of the cage ends up hitting his ankle. So he injures his ankle, so that's why he has a limp throughout the rest of the film. And he takes the kid, and they separate. And so as Willow and Migosh are making their way back, he's like, did we do the right thing? Of course we did. We'll be hailed as heroes. It's bigger than us, you know? And then you hear, I stole the baby! I stole the baby! We get introduced to the brownies. The little people, who I will show you. Because I am just awesome. There we go. This thing knows exactly, or this Chromebook is insanely intuitive. We get introduced to, or here are the two main brownies. And oh my God, folks, these people are so freaking small. These guys are inches tall when it comes to the scale of people and beings. They're like 2 or 3 inches tall. And one of the funniest things I remember from watching the special features on the DVD for Willow, it was an anniversary edition, I believe. It's like a 20th anniversary for Willow, because, oh my God, Willow's almost, or 1988, 2018 with 30, or it would be 30 years, so 30, almost 35 years. Holy crap. Are they made of brownies? No. They're just made of a lot of attitude and hilarity. And so, yeah. Frangine and Rule. Frangine is the one with the wily hair, and Rule is the one with the mouse cap. Let me actually give a little bit of... Kevin Pollak plays Frangine, and Rule was... Or, no, Kevin Pollak was Rule, where Frangine was played by... Who was it? Rick Overton played Frangine. I mean, just look at those two faces, dude. So I remember when they were doing the interviews with the brownies, they had a green screen behind them so that they could look like they were small, and they have a freaking Barbie dream house behind them. He's like, we're so thankful to George Lucas for hiring us, man. I mean, we've been trying to get into the acting kit for years, and they set us up in this beautiful pink house. It's just freaking hilarious. Let's see if I can actually find that, because that would be hilarious. I did not click that. I did not. Brownies, Barbie house. Nope, that's not it. Willow. Add Willow to it. Really? Ah. But anyway, yeah, the special features were hilarious where they were doing that. And Jacob Ironside, welcome back. So they end up kidnapping the Nelwynds, tying them up, dragging them through the frickin' forest, where they meet Shalindria, who is the queen of Zeferes. Now, let's actually pull her up and she was played by Maria Holvo. Interesting name. Willow Shalindria. There. Now, the way that they did this or these scenes where she is floating and whatnot, it was really well done, where you have the green screen, you have inserts, and you have digital effects. I mean, this is back when Industrial Light and Magic was really starting to get off the ground and starting to push the envelope with what they're doing. And this scene was really done well. So that she is told, or Shalindria tells Willow that Elora Danon, the baby, has chosen her or him to be her guardian, so to speak. And that she must be brought to Tir Asleen. But before she goes there, they must also find Finn Rizal, a powerful sorceress who can help defeat Bavmorda. And he's like, I'm a nobody, I'm short, even for a no one. And while this scene does keep it light in the beginning, where you see that these fairies are all nice and whatnot and magic and such, Shalindria does make herself appear extremely huge, and tells him that if he fails, Bavmorda will kill everybody. His friends, his family, Elora Danon, everybody. And she tells him, the choice is yours. So he does decide, or the next day, Migosh is going back to the village, and Willow decides to go along to find or to help this baby. So they get to a small Daikini tavern area, and because Elora's needs milk because they're out of food. And they find that it is a very dangerous place, and you get introduced to the dust of Broken Heart and the brownies, Frangina and Rule, who are with him. And you see Rule, freaking Kevin Pollak, he's like, oh boy, I could use a love potion on her. Frangine, give me that dust of Broken Heart. And he ends up getting dusted with it, and he falls in love with a cat. He's like, you are so beautiful. Your whiskers. It is just so great. Such great scenes where he gets scared up to a thing, falls into a mug of beer, and he's like, beer. He has such an insane laugh. These guys are just so hilarious in the film. They really do bring the comedy to it. And then a bar fight starts breaking out where they're doing a little smacking each other with freaking morning stars. And I'm going to stop sharing with the thingy here. So, yeah. When you get into the next scene where he falls through one of the walls, where this woman is talking to a guy saying, you got to get out of here quick. My husband's almost here. Turns around. It's Val Kilmer with big breasts. Actually, you know what? I'm going to actually see if I could do that. Mad Mardigan woman. Pretty sure. Yep. This is just freaking hilarious. So yeah, he's like, how do I look? And she's like, cover your face. Because Lug is coming, this woman's husband. She's a tavern wench, so to speak. Cher. I mean, folks, this movie just has great scenes, great everything in it. It truly is a must watch. Share screen. Chrome tab. Not the mystery room at Mardigan, yes. And so, yeah. Oh, come on. You get this. Dressing up as a woman. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. And so he's like, you? What are you doing here? He's like, and then he's like, you were crawling with brownies. Because the brownies are also following him in and whatnot. And he's like, and then Lug comes in. He's like, where is he? I'm going to kill him. Yeah. Or nobody's here, honey. Just my sister, Helga. Or something like that. And he's like, wanna breed? Tempting, but no. And then Nockmaar soldiers are there, Sorsha and Kale. And so she's checking babies and whatnot to see if any of them may be the baby that she's looking for. And they get brought out and whatnot and she's like, are you the mother of that child? Yes, I am. Let me see it. And so Val Kilmer's like, he's hiding his face. I believe they actually show it. Yeah. He's hiding his face like this and ends up shoving Sorsha back. And she's like, so she takes off her helmet and he's like, you're very beautiful and you're very strong. Thank you. You're no woman. So she pulls off the thing and he smiles. And this is where Lug just goes nuts. He's like, not a woman, honey. No, please. Not a woman. Gentlemen, meet Lug. And then he ducks out of the way while Lug just starts making a ruckus in there. And which leads to a chase with Willow jumping into a wagon with them and that leads to a chase through the woods. And you really do get a Indiana Jones vibe with the score. It is actually well done, and the fight scenes where you hear the contact with, or when they're punching each other, it's straight from Indiana Jones. It's the really kind of wet leather punch or sound. Kevin Pollak doing brownies from Willow. Well, let's see here. Well, let me see if I can pull that up. So give me a second here, folks. I'm going to have to access it through YouTube. There we go. There we go. That way it's not going to make any more noises. Now I'm just waiting for the live chat to come up. Oy. There we go. Now let me click the link. Yeah, I will show a little bit of this. This is a thing of Kevin Pollak, not as Rule, but not doll up and whatnot. It's a 13-second video. I'll actually share this. See if I can actually do it and not have too much problem with it. Doing brownies from Willow. I've never seen this before, so let's see it.
Yeah. Is it his birthday or something?
No, he just loves you.
Oh. Hey, Carson, it's Kevin Pollak. Oh, it's Rule.
That was good. That was good. He actually still has the voice. Holy crap, man. That is pretty cool. And I got a bunch of notifications. I will check out those later. Oh, well, it's years away. But yes, oh my God. Kevin Pollak's voice for that was truly freaking great, man. So, yes, the chase through the woods. Let's get rid of this in the talking points. The chase and fight, man. Martin and Willow team up. Yes, the chase through the woods. I mean, the way that they shot this was pretty freaking epic, as well as the reaction to a couple of the Nockmar soldiers. They also have freaking throwing stars in this, which were pretty nuts. If you've seen the, hey, Jace, good to see you. I'm doing well. If you've seen Rise of the Planet of the Apes, the star in his, in the window in Caesar's home, James Franco's home, that star shape that was in that movie is actually the same star shape as the ninja stars that they had, or the throwing stars that they had in this film. And after they managed to derail the pursuit, they're like, "Go home, Willow." And he's like, "Well, I need your help." And they end up, he's like, "Where are you going?" "You're not going south, are you?" "No, just to the lake." "Okay, mumbo jumbo. I am hungry. Find me some eggs or something." You do not get to boss us around now. Ah! I mean, they just, oh my God, it's so freaking awesome. So they're in the wood, or when they do the Frangine and Rule scenes, everything is bigger. They really did take the time to make giant looking apples, giant barrels. They do all of this stuff, man. They actually did a wonderful job making the first bigatures, so to speak. And it really is well done. Are you seen how, or while Peter Jackson may have coined the term bigatures, they really did have bigatures before Peter Jackson made bigatures. Let's just say that. I mean, it was just so freaking hilarious. And if you really watch the special features to Willow, like I have, it's actually on Movies Anywhere. If you have the film, you can actually watch the special features. They really are cool to watch, and you learn so much about the movies. And so they get to the lake, and this is where Mad Mardigan parts ways with him, so that he can get into a boat to find Finn Rizal. Well, there's an island that she has been exiled to, and you'd wonder how a sorceress is bound to a island. Well, when we get to that island, and there was a deleted scene where there's this bald boy that turns into a fish attacking Willow. Doesn't work very well, though, and I'm so glad they didn't put it in because it just seemed really out there. He gets to the island, and he's calling for Finn Rizal, and you see this little muskrat-like creature. Let me see if I can actually pull her up. Animal. Common brush-tailed possum was what she was, or on the island. It's an Australian possum. So yeah, that was the first animal that she was. And let's see if I can actually get images. Yep. Cute little shit. I'll give it that. And let's share it for you guys. And the way that they did the animals and whatnot were very well done. They really took a lot of good care with how they planned each scene when it came to the animals. This movie is just that good. Even with its objective flaws, this movie is just that good. So yes, this is the animal that you see Finn Rizal at, and they even show her mouth moving and whatnot as she talks. And there are hello, Jace, good to see you. And there are, so she's like, Shalindria sent me, and she also has, Willow also has Shalindria's wand because he was also tasked to giving the wand to Rizal. Now, her name is Finn Rizal, but her last name is spelled like Raziel from the Soul Calibur games. Or not Soul Calibur, Soul Reaver games. So it's like, but I'm glad it's very much pronounced differently. So, yes, they get her back, and she sees the baby. She's like, this is indeed Alora Dannon, and we must protect her and keep her safe. And you also must transform me into my human self so I can destroy Bavmorda. But before they could do any of that, Nockmaar troops ride in with Mad Mardigan. Second. And end up putting her in a cage, or in a little makeshift cage. And they get the baby. And you think that Mad Mardigan actually betrayed Willow. And he's like, sorry about this, Peck. He's like, you shut up. We didn't need your help to find the baby. And so when Alora is crying in the next scenes because she's not being handled very well, now, obviously, they would not hurt the baby. And when they were on horseback, they didn't have the actual baby in the arms. You see so many shots with different backgrounds of Alora where she reacts all throughout this film. She has so many different fun little reactions. I mean, I'm willing to bet that they literally took a day of just recording so many different reactions with the babies, with Ruth and whatchamacallit, Greenwood or Greenfield. And they they put these scenes, or they put these reactions all sprinkled throughout the film, and it's really done well. So when they are making their way into the snowy lands, they end up getting caged again. And when they try changing, or when Willow has to try to change Finn Rizal back, it's like she uncages him, bites his finger, and he's like, what was that for? Magic, or I need 3 drops of your blood for the potion. Also, magic sometimes hurts. They do a wonderful job. It's like, magic sometimes hurts for newbies. And so he tries changing her, and he's like, so what do you look like? Don't interrupt. I'm a young, beautiful woman. Concentrate, Willow. Mad Mardigan's asking these, he's like, so what do you look like as a human? I'm a young, beautiful woman. Concentrate, Willow. Well, Willow doesn't concentrate because the freaking brownies come in at the last moment and screw it up. And friggin' she gets turned into a crow. It really is hilarious. She, Finn Rizal bird. Yep, she gets turned into into a crow. That crow to be on, or that one. And they do a wonderful job with the different effects. And let me stop sharing this. They actually do a wonderful job with the practical effects and how they use the birds or the bird for Finn Rizal. And when they finally escape, because the brownies are freaking arrive and they try picking the lock with a spear, and Mad Mardigan, he's like, let me do it. I'm warning you, put that down, or put my spear down, you stupid Daikini. And he smacks him with the dust of broken heart. And you see that freaking Mad Mardigan is now under a spell. And with Dust of Broken Heart, you fall in love with the first person you see if it is of the opposite sex. Traditional. Good. And who's the first person he sees when they break out? But Sorsha. Joanne Wally. And he sneaks into her tent to try to get Allura Dannon out of there. And he ends up spouting poetry. And she wakes up because he's about to kiss her and shit. Like, one move, jackass, and you really will be a woman. And he's just professing her love. Now, this is one of the biggest critiques of the film. A lot of people actually ask, how does she end up falling in love with this guy? Like, what is it about Mad Mardigan that causes her to really fall in love with him? Well, to be completely honest, there's many different factors. Psychologically speaking, strong infatuation with somebody can actually cause that person who is the target of infatuation to actually have feelings for the person they are, or that is infatuated with them. Even at first, if they feel nothing towards them, they can actually feel something afterward. So yes, that is an actual thing that can happen. They've done studies on it. They have even done a series of movies where that kind of stuff happens. If you have seen the Twilight films. Stupid thing. There. My chair is metal and it's uncomfortable. But anyway. Yes. So he's professing his love over and over, and he's like, my heart beats for you. And she's like, I could stop it. I'll kill you. Your touch is worth 100,000 deaths. And it's like, wow. So Willow decides to grab the kid and try to escape, where General Kale comes in. He's like, what's going on here? Drops Willow to the ground with the baby in his arms. So thank God the baby wasn't really in his arms. And she's like, deceiver. And so, well, yeah, they have to escape. And they cut the tent. And they cut themselves out of the tent. And you see Mad Mardigan kind of getting or overriding the dust a little bit. And I love how he does the swirls and tosses up with the sword. So showing that he is the greatest swordsman who has ever lived, because that was his claim earlier in the film. And he manages to kick some butt, and then Willow witnesses it, and he's like, you really are great. And then you see I did a tweet on Twitter where I signaled I'm live, which actually shows what he does. He throws the sword up again, catches it, and then slides on the snow because they're up in the mountains with the snow. And then he gets up on the shield and he sees that Sorsha is coming back. So he tries to go back for Sorsha, but Kale's like, or calls or yells out after them. And well, they have to go. Time for me to get ready for school. See you tomorrow, Orange Eye. Yep. Take it easy. And hope you have a wonderful day, Riot. I will message you later about the stream. So, yes. We then get the lovely slide downhill. He gets on a shield and they end up sliding down this mountain of snow. And I gotta say, this is so fucking hilarious, because you also see another reaction from Allura where she's laughing and and they go through. I mean, the fact that they all survived with going through the ice tunnel and launching out the other side. Hey, Channel 66, how you doing? Good to see you. And then freaking Val Kilmer falls off the shield and he starts tumbling down the mountain. And after he lands in, and after Willow lands in one of the houses in a village at the bottom of the hill, he gets up and he hears this rumbling and he looks out and there's Mad Mardigan in a humongous snow wheel that he ended up getting wrapped up in because he's tumbling down the hill. And it's just so seriously hilarious, man. So Willow closes his door, gets up to look, then runs away just as the thing crashes and just smacks a bunch of snow right into his face. He's like, ugh. He's like, what the hell happened up there? You started spouting poetry. Poetry? I love you, Sorsha. I worship you, Sorsha. You almost got us killed. I love you, Sorsha. That woman, I don't love her. That woman kicked me in the face. I hate her. Don't I? Hey, Jack of all casuals. Good to see you, man. And so then they get the warning of the Nockmaar soldiers are coming. And he's like, they're after us. We need a place to hide. So they're hiding underneath one of the homes with a hidden floor. And Eric is there. And he's like, I knew you couldn't get out of that rat I knew you'd get out of that rat trap. And he's like, you left me to die, Eric. I actually probably saved your life. It was a or Galadorn was a slaughter. Or we attacked and we were slaughtered and I've lost so many men. And they're like, shh. And I love in this particular scene, you have where they're knocking over stuff above them and Laura Dannon starts crying. That would alert the soldiers and stuff. Well, then, because I'll be honest, I have never seen Willow. You should see it, Jack of Casuals. Even though it's an older movie, it is truly a lot better than most people think. So in order to fool the Nockmaar soldiers and Sorsha, who's right above them, and you also see Val Kilmer, he's like, still in love with Sorsha from the Dust of Broken Heart. And Finn, as the bird, Finn Rizal, she comes in squawking because she's a crow that imitates the baby crying and then flies out when the baby stops. So it is enough to fool the soldiers, but she ends up finding the doorway that's underneath the fur mats. And she ends up going down. And I love her sword, how it's how it has teeth on one end is sharp on the other. And they really did a good job with the different sword designs and whatnot for this film. That is actually something that I thought was really well done. It really shows the menace of the Nockmaar army, how they have different swords that look very menacing. And so the way that they get out is Val Kilmer takes her or puts a knife to her throat. And it's like back out. And so they get out and he's holding her hostage. And Eric asks, what does Bavmorda want with this baby anyway? She's a princess. She's meant to, or we need to take her to Tir Asleen. Tir Asleen, even if you could get that far, Peck, even if you could get out of here, Peck, Nockmaar army will cut you down before you can even get anywhere near Tir Asleen. And he tells him there's an even bigger army in Tir Asleen waiting for us. Well, he's like, one of you, or you've never held loyalty to anyone, Mad Mardigan. Now, when did you become a crusader? He's not going to help you, Peck. He's nothing but a common thief. He's like, I'm not a thief, Eric. He's not a thief, are you? And he gets up and he puts the knife back to her throat and he's like, I serve the Nelwyn, Eric. And he tells him, all right, then we'll help you. We'll get you out of here. It's a kind of a redeeming quality for Mad Mardigan since he did betray him or did kind of lose the baby and didn't give two shits about it later on or earlier on. So they end up riding off with Sorsha as a hostage. She's like, you're holding me too tight. Well, I don't want you to get away. Why? Because I'm your sun, your moon, your starlit sky. Get your hair out of my face before I chop it off. I didn't really say that stuff, did I? You told me you love me. It's like, I don't remember that. You told me your heart's beat for me and other stuff. And so she ends up getting pissed off because he doesn't remember any of that. And she ends up getting away, and they make their way to Tir Asleen. Well, there's nobody in Tir Asleen, except there's these rocks all around Tir Asleen and throughout Tir Asleen, and you see people in these rocks. And I love it. It's like, Mad Mardigan's like, why did I listen to you, Peck? Everything will be all right once we get to Tir Asleen. The only army here is the one that's about to ride over that plane and wipe us out. And you then see him, he's like, this place is cursed, man. And he steps into some crap, and he's like, trolls. And you hear earlier in the film, I didn't really cover it, but you hear that Willow doesn't like trolls. He hates trolls. He really does. Well, you're going to see trolls in this film, and they look freaking weird. In fact, while I'm talking about the film, so Mad Mardigan is actually trying to or he finds the armory, he arms up, he finds some armor, he puts on the armor, and he sets up the crossbows, and then the Nockmaar army starts coming down on him, and he manages to close the gate. And while this is happening, Willow has to change Raziel back into a human. He screws it up again, and she becomes a goat. A beautiful white goat. And he's like, Willow, you idiot. It's just so freaking hilarious. So then, while they are, he tells Willow to hide with the baby, and you then start seeing the trolls these trolls look like monkeys. And I just got a good picture of it. So, yeah, right here. So you all see what the trolls look like. And then they got all these other troll thingies. And a nice little production shot here with Ron Howard, Willow, and a guy in the troll. Yeah. That's a nice little picture of them. But yes, the trolls. And she tells Willow to use the wand on one of the trolls. And so he does, and he causes it to change. Now there is it starts smoking. These two little tentacles come out, rip off the skin, and these two heads start coming out of it. So he kicks it off of the bridge that he's on and into the water, and the water starts boiling. Well, the Nockmaar army has cut down a tree outside, stripped it, and batters through, and the battle begins. And Kale is out there and whatnot, and just as he runs out of bolts from the crossbows, he starts swooshing his sword, and he's like, ah! And everybody's like, whoa! And as you see this big thing rising up behind Mad Mardigan, happy day to you, Happy Dinah. Good to see you, buddy. And yeah, this thing rises up behind Mad Mardigan. Price is Right review. Good to see you. And it's a dragon, a two-headed dragon. And he thinks that he's scaring the Nockmaar army back. And then he looks behind him and he's like, huh! And then runs it over into the to stay back with the army. And this dragon, this two-headed dragon, is named Ebersisk. You heard me right. Ebersisk. Now it looks like I have a small little internet problem here. So yes, Ebersisk. Well, actually, let me see if I can actually get that up. Sisk, Willow. The dragon. Yes, Sisk the dragon. The two-headed dragon from Willow. There it is. And let me see here. Share the screen. Now, the reason why this thing is called Sisk was, if you haven't guessed it, it was because of Siskel and Ebert. So yeah, this is Sisk here. The two-headed dragon that could breathe fire. And let me show you the toy of its whole body. Has 6 little small leg thingies down there, and the 2 heads there. I actually had a toy of it. That's interesting. But yeah, this thing was once a troll, and it eats a different troll, and the Battle of Tir Asleen is actually pretty well done. And while now one of the bigger critiques, as I said, was how Sorsha falls in love with Mad Mardigan. Well, she is watching Mad Mardigan fight this whole time. And one of the funnier things before I get into that was, as Mad Mardigan went to stay away from, yeah, just in case you crash. Yeah, thanks. And now let's remove that. So, yeah, one of the funnier parts of the scene was he runs out with the Nockmaar army, and he's like, whoa, man. And he starts looking around. Sorsha's looking down at him. Kale's looking down at him, and he's like, uh-oh. So he's like, get him! I mean, it's just one of those funny moments where that you just can't help but get a good laugh out of it. And then they start fighting, or everybody starts fighting, and he's starting to fight them. And he hands Willow a sword when he gets up to the area where the baby, or where Alora is and Willow is. And Willow tries pulling one of his acorns out of his pocket. And this is where you see that these things really do turn things to stone, because he drops it and turns one of the planks to the bridge into stone. And that is actually pretty good freaking special effects with the stone, or with the stone casting, where they show the thing just turn to slate gray and also look like actual stone. So he then you then have whatchamacallit, Mad Mardigan get up there fighting a troll, and the thing starts screeching at him, and he starts yelling at it. Now, if you were watching the widescreen edition, which nowadays is all you can watch because widescreen TVs, you see the troll kind of cower a little bit, and then he kicks it off the edge where one of Sisk's heads go to eat it. And then he's like, ugh. He sees the other one leaning up and to try to, or looking at him. And I really do like how he goes to slay the dragon, and he puts the sword through Sisk's head, pinning its mouth shut. And you see how the blade slicks through the bottom. Now, the sword isn't really that long, because it would have been like a 7-foot or like a 12 to 16-foot sword if it was that big. And the thing is going like this, trying to breathe fire, and you see its sack underneath swelling up until its head just explodes. And that's what kills Sisk, the dragon. And he ends up falling down among the battle. And while Eric's army is riding in, you see Sorsha walk up to him. Now, she has him dead to rights, but instead of killing him, she picks him up and ends up kissing him. And Kale finds Willow and the baby, and you hear him laughing, and then it cuts to them fighting, and he comes out with the baby, and he sees Sorsha fighting alongside Madmartigan against their own army. And so he rides out, gets through Eric's army, who rides in to Tir Asleen, and he manages to get to Nockmaar Castle. Well, now Bavmorda has the baby. And she asks, "Where's Sorsha? She has turned against us, Your Highness." And you see the seers who had told Bavmorda this, and they're like, "Oh fuck." They're kind of they're stoic faced, but you know that they're saying in their heads, "We fucking told you this was going to happen." But she's pissed off about it anyway. So she's like, "Prepare the ritual," and all that shit, and walking away. And Eric's army makes camp outside of Nockmaar to find the baby, to ride after and rescue the baby. And you then see, as night has fallen, they're preparing the ritual. You see Bavmorda come out and see what's going on. She starts laughing, and then you see the goat, Finrazel, usher Willow inside of a tent. And she tells him, use a spell of protection or whatnot. What is it called? I have my talking points here. Oh, sorry. Got an itch. There it is. A spell, or let's see here. I know I put it in here. Shelter chant is what it's called. And while he's casting this, Roselle or whatchamacallit turns the army into pigs. You're all pigs. And Sorsha they do so many stages to this. They have one guy looking like, or with a pig bottom of a pig body, and with prosthetic face or pig face and whatnot. Oh my god, the way that they did this was just, you really think it's really happening. You have Madmartigan spouting freaking tusks. You have his nose or looking up. They did different stages. And Sorsha tells her mother, it's like, "Mother, no." And you see the betrayal. Jean Marsh did such a good job expressing how pissed off and betrayed she felt seeing her daughter standing against her. And she then lifts, or when she says Carthon, that's actually lifting a protective spell over her daughter, so that her daughter can fall prey to the same spell that she's casting on everyone else. And now, or even the brownies turn into pigs, because you'll see two little pigs in the film as well, or outside with the army full of pigs, you know? And after everybody's turned into pigs, Willow sees this and he's like, "We've come all this way and now Lord Danon's going to die. No, turn me back into my human form and I will defeat Bavmorda." And you then see what's known as from morph to morphing. The way that they blend practical effects and puppetry to real animals, to then the actress who plays Finn Rizal, Patricia Hayes. And where he turns her first into, or from a goat into a ostrich, and then from an ostrich into a peacock, from a peacock into a turtle, from a turtle into a tiger from a woman. And this is really, it took so much effort to do all of this. First off, you have a freaking tiger. You had to put a real freaking tiger on the damn set to record the tiger's reaction. You gotta make a puppet of a turtle with two humongous freaking tiger paws. You gotta show a goat going up on its hind legs with bird wings that doesn't look like an ostrich, but kind of in between an ostrich and a goat. They did so much with the practical effects and blending it with digital effects that you really feel the kind of different morphs of this scene. And then when she turns finally back into Patricia Hayes, she's looking at her body. She's like, has it been so long? She's been on that island for years that she is now an old woman. And so they put her, or so Willow wraps her up because she's naked. And they change people back. And while the ritual is going on, they make a plan to get back into the gate against Bavmorda. Now, I don't need that anymore. Let's see here. Drawing out the Nockmaar army. They come up with a plan, and he's like, or we'll never be able to get into the castle, not while the drawbridge is up. And so Willow comes up. He's like, back where I come from, we have a lot of gophers. Willow, this is war, not agriculture. I know, just hear me out. And so he discusses the plan, and Eric he's actually still skeptical. He's like, come on, Mad Mardigan, you and I are soldiers. We both know that Peck's plan isn't going to work. Well, they do finally decide that they're going to stand and do it. And the next morning, you see, or this ritual must take a long time because sun has come up. Kale's looking out among the now deserted camp. And you see Finn Rizal talking with Willow. And she's like, you've helped me change back into my human form. And so that I may once again, so that I may once finally destroy Bavmorda. I will always admire you for that. And you see Willow reach down and hold his wife's hair, or the lock of her hair. And Bavmorda, or not Bavmorda, but Rizal tells him, your children will live to remember this day. And that is enough to give him enough of courage for what he has to do. So they start telling the Nockmaar army, we're all powerful sorcerers. If you do not release the baby, we will destroy you. Well, their plan works. Kale's laughing his ass off, thinking that they're nuts. Kill him. Drawbridge goes down, and Willow starts beating on a drum, and all the holes that they dug, oh my God, there must have been 100. All the horses are coming out of them, and the army gets into the castle. Well, Kale then fights Eric, and the fight between Eric and Kale is actually pretty well done. Now, Eric has a cool sword. I'm actually going to try, or it's an arm sword. It's one that you don't hold, or to give you an idea, it's one that you don't hold a sword like this, but instead it has a gauntlet sword. It's a gauntlet sword like this. Now I'm actually going to try to pull it up. Eric's sword, Willow. It's I believe it's known as a Kaiser Sword. Yes, it's a Kaiser Sword, is what they call it. And let's see if I can find it. Yes, a Kaiser Sword. You seriously got to be kidding me. There we are. It is a blend of a gauntlet and a sword. My dog is resting upon your feet. Aw, isn't that cute? Oops. And share screen. Tab. So yes, right here is the sword that Eric uses. It literally fits on your arm like a gauntlet, and it's more of or you fight with it like that. It's seriously an interesting looking sword. Let's see if they show it. No, they don't have very clear shots of it. Well, here's one where they kind of show it, or what it's kind of like. A Tonka Willa Eric Thauber Heroic Commander action figure from eBay. Huh, nice. But yes, actually, there's a much better look for it. Weapons expert. A good sword is an extension of your arm. Marathos, say no more. But yes, they're basically gauntlet swords. And Kale kills Eric. So like an Assassin's Creed blade. It's an Assassin's Creed blade on steroids, and it's also a set blade. It's not one that is retractable. It's also super long. It's a sword. It's not a hidden blade. And Eric loses this fight. Eric's name is not Eric. It's Eric. A-I-R-K. And Madmartigan sees that Eric is rolling down the mud, dying because Kale kills him. And while they're fighting, you see Sorsha take Willow and Roselle to face her mother. And the battle between Bavmorda and Roselle is intercut between the fight between Kale and Madmartigan. And Madmartigan takes the Eric's sword or gauntlet sword to also fight, because it's like, you just killed my best friend. I'm going to make sure that you die by his blade. That kind of thing, you know? And the wizard battle between Bavmorda and Roselle. I love it, man. And when you see Bavmorda doing the ritual, you also see that her eyes are sunken. It is seriously a very wet set, because it's rain that's coming through. It's very stormy and whatnot. And she doesn't, or the makeup that she has kind of makes her look her eyes look very sunk. And she looks like it has taken or this ritual is taking a toll on her body. She looks withered a little bit. And her daughter steps in. She's like, I'm not going to let you hurt that child. And she's like, I must despise you now. And then she sends her seer people to try to kill her daughter. And her daughter handles them pretty well and kills them off. And you see the pride on her face. And she's like, enough of this. So she actually throws her daughter toward a spiked wall. And Roselle saves her at the last second and lets her down. And she's like, your powers have grown. And you get the fight between the witches, man. Some of this fight is freaking hilarious. I mean, you see Bavmorda getting launched backwards, freaking spun around, smacked into walls. And you see Patricia Hayes chanting and whatnot. And it's just hilarious at sometimes watching it. So you then see that when she throws her off to the ground, well, Roselle gets out to check her, and then she gets tossed back, and they're fighting over the wand, and Willow goes after the baby to try to get her or free her and whatnot. And Roselle ends up getting knocked out. Kale is also the guy that gets a prop in the face in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Oh, damn. Really? Huh. I did not know that. That's interesting. So intercutting between the fight between Eric and or Mad Mardigan and Kale, Mad Mardigan is fighting him, and he manages to slice off a part of Kale's mask against his face, and it's like, oh shit. And then he manages to do a twirl swoosh, causing Kale to deflect the sword, and then he plunges the broken sword because during the fight, Kale snaps the blade from the gauntlet blade because of it being a set blade. It's less sturdy. So he manages to push or dig it into his stomach here. But Kale's still fighting, and he's still beating on freaking Mad Mardigan. So then Mad Mardigan steps on Kale's sword that he dropped and pulls Kale forward onto the blade. And it's like, oh, damn, that's got to hurt. And then he kicks him off the ledge of the high bridge that they're on. And it's like, oof. So then then when the fight between Roselle and Bavmorda concludes, you see Bavmorda sees that the baby's no longer there, and she stops Willow from escaping with the baby, and she's like, who are you, Peck? Or bring me back that baby, Peck. And it's like, Jesus, man, what is with everybody calling him Peck, you know? So she's like, who are you? I'm an all-powerful, or he starts playing it up, I'm an all-powerful sorcerer, and I will not let you harm this baby. And she's like, sorcerer. So he's like, I'm the greatest sorcerer, and he throws one of the acorns, the stone acorns at her, and she catches it, and then she notices her damn arms turn to stone, so she struggles with it, and she manages to turn her arm back, and when she opens it, you see the dust from the acorn freaking just fall out. It's like, is that the true extent of your power, little one? And she's like, now you're going to see me draw on the universe to send that kid's soul to the 13th realm. I'm like, all right. And so he's like, no, you stupid hag. I'm going to send her to a you're no sorcerer, to a realm where evil can't touch her. Impossible. There's no such place. And then he starts chanting, and then he does his disappearing, or he's like, bye, Allure, and then whips up the cover, and Allure's gone. Well, Bavmorda's like, what? So she's seriously kind of struck dumb because she actually thought he may have done exactly what he said he was doing. And so she tips over some of the potion that she was building for this ritual, and then she also grabs Roselle's or Shalindra's wand and is about to strike at him, but because the potion tipped and the wand suddenly gets hit by lightning, she's undone by her own ritual. Her own soul gets thrown into oblivion, essentially. And that's the end of the fight, and Roselle starts coming to, as does Sorsha, because somehow Sorsha just was knocked out during this whole fight, even though she wasn't really knocked unconscious. It was weird. And then Mad Mardigan also clambers in, and they're like, Willow, where's the baby? It was just my disappearing pig trick. And it's like, well, there you go. That's how you beat a very powerful sorceress. You just fool her with Wizard's first rule. Everybody's stupid, you know? So then they cut to Tir Asleen sometime later, and Tir Asleen, or the Curse of Bavmorda, has freed Tir Asleen. All of its inhabitants are no longer trapped in stone. And Roselle gives Willow a book of magic and puts him on a pony. He says goodbye to Allura Dannon. Sorsha and Mad Mardigan are essentially the ones to raise her in the stories, if I remember correctly. And he rides home. And then when he arrives home, everybody's welcoming him back, and the High Alduin comes up, and he takes out an apple, throws it up into the air, and it turns into a bird that ends up taking a shit on Burglekutt's face. Burglekutt's like, oh my god, I can't believe it's alive. Then he gets shit on, so it's like, yep. So then he sees Kaya and his bobbins, his kids coming up, and you see their reunion is just, it is so powerful, especially with the music. This film, like I said, the score of this film is just so beautiful. And then they start rolling credits in the No One Village, where they play the village song that I played earlier for you all. For those of you who are here again, I will play a little bit of it. I cannot play the full thing, even though it's only 1 minute 50 seconds long. But I will play a little bit of it so that you guys know what I'm talking about. Now, please, this is fair use. I'm only doing this for purposes that are not meant for my own gain. I'm not monetized, so yeah. And they play this for the credit sequence. And it really is a great movie. But yeah. And they wanted to do a sequel. They're doing the sequel now to Willow. It's a series that's in post-production. I actually looked up Warwick Davis's IMDb, and yeah, it's in post-production. They're getting ready to release that anytime. And I'm like, I can't believe that they actually did it. I just hope that they don't screw it up, you know? This is not a story that you want done in modern-day Disney time, because modern-day Disney has gone completely off the plot. So, yes. As for the scoring of Willow, this movie does have flaws. There are acting problems. There are certain blending problems. The movie is aged. It is really aged by its special effects. But for the most part, the story, the writing, all of it is really well done. Willow was a movie that, while flawed and having outdated effects, is still a joy to watch. It brings a sense of magic and wonder, and a great tale that shows even the smallest person can bring about great change and become a great hero. And honestly, I highly recommend it for everyone to watch, because it truly is just that good of a movie, you know? So, objectively, I put this movie, even with the flaws, even though it's outdated, at the time, this movie would be around an 8 out of 10. Yes, there are problems with it. Yes, there are critique problems that make no sense. But for the most part, this movie is an 8 out of 10. Subjectively and moviegoer, it is 10 out of 10. I highly recommend this film for families and whatnot to watch, because it is not a movie that sucks. Let's just say that. And so, yes. So, getting on to the hints for the next movie, Jet Li and Straight Line. Those are your hints. If you know it, do not put it in the chat. Please do not put it in the chat. Message me on Twitter if you know it. But yes, those are the hints. Jet Li and Straight Line. So, yes, I am going to watch the show Willow when it releases so that I can give it an honest look. I am hoping to God that it is, or that they are sticking to the story told by the sequel books and not their own bullshit agenda. I don't have faith that Willow will be good, or the Willow series will be good, but I am curious enough to actually give it a shot to watch. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Stay tuned for tomorrow morning and tomorrow evening. Tomorrow morning, I will have my guest review with Riot Kitty, where we discuss Logan. And tomorrow night will be with Mara Jade, where we are discussing Hot Fuzz. So thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for Jacob Ironside, Cayman Rider, Happy Dino, Jack of all trade or casuals, sorry. Price is Right, Channel 66, Riot Kitty, Jace Fox, Who else? NB Geeks, Floral from Under a Rock, or Raging Rhino, Dan Blackroyd, NB Geeks. Who else? Who else? Metalong. Let's see here. Andrew, 1997 or AU, Aussie. Jacob Ironside, I think I already said your name. Thank you to all who were in the chat and who gave this stream a like. And make sure that you smash that like button if you haven't already. And give the channel a subscribe. I am trying to get to 1,000 before June. If I do get to 1,000, I will dye my hair and my beard. I'm letting this sucker grow out, so it's scruffy right now, yeah. So that I can dye it orange if you guys get me to 1,000 subscribers before June. If I don't get them before June, I'll still do a celebration stream, but I'm not going to dye my hair. The only way that you get me to dye my hair and my beard orange is if it happens before June. So get me to 1,000 subs. I only have like 134 left to go. So if you guys can do that, awesome. Then you guys get to ask me anything. So yes, thank you so much, folks. Make sure that you set your reminders for the streams coming tomorrow. They're under the playlist guest reviews and discussions. And thank you so much to everybody who tuned in. See you all tomorrow. And always remember, stay humble.